So here you get an idea of just the size of this thing. It is outrageous, and in relation to the temple, where the other large ones are resting right now, that is the Temple of Jupiter in the background. Like many megalithic sites on the planet, this has been misidentified as possibly being a work of the Romans. Now, the Romans built on top of the megalithic constructions at Baalbek, but there's no way they had the technology, tools, or probably even inclination to try to quarry the largest stone that would ever have been done in the Roman Empire here, somewhat in the middle of nowhere in relation to Rome itself. So what we're looking at is a megalithic work predating the Romans, the Greeks, and the Egyptians by probably thousands of years, by an unknown civilization that clearly had some type of what we would call lost ancient high technology capability. So we're actually in the quarry itself here, and you can see the tool marks and the grayness, so you see a lot of weathering on this surface. This is the very recent, as in less than 6 months ago, removal of material, and you see those interesting almost crisscross cutting marks, as well as along the bottom of this block there's a continuous line that goes around it, as if there was another kind of tool attempting to be used to separate this block from the bedrock itself. And underneath, an even larger one that they were trying to extract. And we also have these test holes where they were testing for the integrity of the stone itself. Because this material is quite solid and holds together well, but on this wall, that's loosely compacted, almost junk, so you couldn't extract a large stone from this area. It would just crumble into pieces as it's doing here at the base.
It would be muscles.
Nejstarší dějiny města Baalbek jsou zahaleny v temnotě, ač některé zdroje jeho původ přičítají židovskému králi Šalamounovi. Za římského císaře Augusta bylo město povýšeno na římskou kolonii, Colonia Julia Augusta Felix, a usídlila se zde římská posádka. Antonius Pius zde nechal vybudovat 2 velkolepé chrámy, jejichž trosky podnes vzbuzují údiv. V 11. století se dostal Baalbek pod moc sultánů halepských a byl v době křižáckých válek neustále předmětem rozmanitých bojů. Roku 1170 utrpěl velikým zemětřesením. Roku 1260 byl vypleněn Mongoly. A tak nakonec památky, které nebyly zničeny, se mění v zříceninu roku 1759 po posledním velkém zemětřesení.
From an engineering standpoint, it's more difficult because you think this is going to slide down as you cut it. Yeah. So it's more difficult, but they had a reason for doing it.
When sediment sedimentate, there's magnetic lines.
the same angle.
Yes, yes.
We're looking at almost exactly the same angle of the unfinished opening.
It's so great when we work as a team. You know, everybody puts it in good.
Yeah,
It's just incredible.
yeah.
That's what the chemistry school is. It's a living book.
So this is another massive block of at least 1,000 tons as I crawl uphill in the quarry across the street. Of course, the whole thing was a quarry, and you can see where later cultures were trying to cut smaller pieces from the mega block, and it is possible that originally it was part of this massive limestone outcrop and then was cut and fell in its present position. But the question from there is, why did the work stop? Why did they not manage to either break it into pieces or move it, as they did 3 others, to the actual site of Baalbek, which is at least a mile or 2 in that direction? So we're at the site of Baalbek itself,
Go up there so we can.
and this is where we have
The side.
the transition between manageable and these, which are huge.
Smaller pieces help them. The pressure. Reduce the pressure from the big ones. Yes, exactly. Yes.
So it's the same
Yeah, the same pressure relief. زي اللي بنشوفها ايه في ال on the studio.
Now this column is polished so smooth and so round, and this curved transition between the curve and the flat is so amazing. It's highly unlikely that this could be done with hand tools, because any sculptor, no matter how good they are, would tend to make a mistake of a dip or a bump. And even after thousands of years, there are no dips and bumps. And this edge, what's left of it, is very sharp. That gives us very strong evidence of the possibility of ancient machining technology. And now we're going to get Stephen Mailer's opinion about the finish on this piece of syenite.
Cyanide
Stone.
granite. Obviously from Aswan, there are no granite quarries in all of Lebanon. And here's a perfect, smooth polish still on the stone, just like we see at Aswan.
Yeah.
And this is obviously from ancient Kemet.
And it's obviously, it would be very difficult, if not impossible, to do that by hand, because your hand is feeling that that would be a perfect circle.
Perfect radius too, perfect arc radius, so it has to be machined.
Now, the Greeks and the Romans were able to do very beautiful work, as we can see here. You see that carving, gorgeous. But in general, they were only able to do that kind of work in either limestone or alabaster. When it comes to a material as hard as granite or syenite, which is what many of these columns are, the hardness of the stone, because of the crystal content and other minerals, is about 7 on what's called the Mohs scale, with the greatest or hardest stone that we know of being diamond at 10. So it's highly unlikely that they were capable of doing this fine, yet perfectly smooth surfaces in the granite or syenite. And the later cultures also were not able very well to work with that material, so we're left with no choice but to look at the idea that an even older culture was here that had forms of technology not available to the Greeks, the Romans, or indeed the dynastic Egyptians. And it's like in Peru and Egypt, we see obvious evidence of lost ancient high technology at work, such as this column here. Again, this is granite or syenite, and it is, by feel at least, a perfect circle in a very hard stone. So a site like this at Baalbek, you really have to decode it. It is so huge and so complicated because of the different cultures involved in its construction and the fact that it's been ruined by later cultures, which is typical. Almost anywhere you go in the world, you find someone built something fantastic, the next culture maybe nurtured it and added on, and then barbarians of some kind come along and just like nuke most of the site and then use it as a quarry. But if we look really carefully, we're seeing definite megalithic, high-tech, lost ancient technology elements here.